And we were live. Good evening, folks. Thanks for coming in. The start of another week. They're flying by. So about 12 weeks to Christmas or something like that, isn't it? So a big fat guy in the red suit comes, bypasses your house because you've been naughty all year. Anyway, tonight we have a very smiley panel, as you can see. We have the lovely Kate Frasi. There's Sarah says hi already.
Hey,
the
Sarah.
lovely Lois Haddow.
Hello, everyone.
And the man himself, the paranormal legend on two legs, the handsome debonair, the man who knows everybody and everybody knows him. Me. No, kidding. It's Nick.
Good afternoon.
Hey,
We've got Nick on the panel as well. And of course, you got myself. Right? 15 weeks, is it not? It's so exact. I don't know, 15 weeks to Christmas. Anyway, we're not here to talk about Christmas. Tonight we're going to be chatting about, it's a topic that's been covered by many channels and blah, blah, blah. You know, but it's probably the most famous. Hey, Nicola Dalton.
hi,
Nicola is
Nicola.
Phantom Seekers.
Paranormal.
Aye. I forgot your name there, Nicola. I'm sorry. It's been a long week, Dom. It's been one of the long weeks this drags on. Anyway, what was I saying? Aye. So tonight's probably one of the most famous prisons in America, one of the most brutal. Probably Alcatraz, basically. Or the Rock, as it's called. Lois is away. No, she's no.
I'm here. Yeah, I'm here.
Share to, I don't know if Sarah can do that for you, Ben, buddy,
Hi,
because
Ben.
I'll be
Hey,
honest with
Ben.
you, Ben. I don't have a clue how to do it, Ben. But Sarah's watching, so mate, if you can share it or whatever it is Ben's wanting to do, because you know I'm tech thick, you know.
Oh, Scott, you have to address him as the Dark Lord. That's his name.
Ben.
Hey, Jacqueline.
Yeah.
Sorry, my Dark Lord. I shall see if Sarah can share it to the channel. My humblest apologies.
You're welcome, Ben.
Hi, Jacqueline. Jacqueline's up this end.
How you doing, Jacqueline?
Jacqueline is in Sunday. She picked the right time to come up because it's raining. Do you know what I mean? It's perfect. You know, it's just camping in the rain, but we're hooking up there next week.
Hey,
Lauren.
Lauren.
Hi, Lauren.
Good to see
Hi,
you,
Lauren Doll. Hello, my beautiful. I don't know who that is. Hello, my beautiful.
I'm
family.
thinking that's maybe Laura.
You
Maybe.
think, hi, adopted son. And
She's
there's
calling me that.
Craig.
That's what she means by that.
Craig done a very interesting live today. It was sunny, but it was still quite a wee bit of rain over our end. Jacqueline, so be warned, bring the wellies. Ben, what's the name of your group? I'll try and share it out. Yes, it's me, Lauren. So
It's the other dimension.
Kate got in there before I did.
Sorry.
That's all right, dog. That's fine. It's all right. It's all good. Lois keeps disappearing.
Yeah,
I'm here. I'm actually here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah. Oh, it's
Oh,
John
John
O'Shura.
O'Shura. Oh, my God. Hi, John.
Hi, John.
I'll talk to you very soon, young sir. It's okay. I always has near end of the East Coast. They seem to get the better weather when we get the rubbish.
See, I wish I could say the same as far as the weather, because obviously, Kate, obviously it's just been raining all day today.
Yeah, it's miserable, right? We're not used to this, Nick. We're used to glorious sunshine and high temperatures.
Bear with me, folks. Sarah's just appeared and I don't know what she's doing. She's doing something on the screen. Anyway, we're talking about Alcatraz tonight. The Rock. We'll get there eventually, guys. Don't worry. We will get there eventually. So, I'm going to be honest. I've not, Right.
Yeah, so you can see who the comments are.
Right, okay. Sarah's doing there crawling in to work the other screen.
Hi, Sarah.
I keep forgetting what I was going to. What was I talking about?
You've got to say about
Alcatraz.
We're off to a flying start this time, haven't we? Well, that's 5 minutes in. We're already talking crap. That's good, isn't it? Aye, so I'll be honest, I've not swatted up much on it because I've just not had the time. But I know the other ones have probably quite a wee bit of knowledge about it. So we're going to let Lois start for a change. What do you think, folks?
Aye, that's fine. I don't mind. Alcatraz, I mean, it was the main cell house. It partially, of course, it was barracks from 1859. It came to be used as a jail during the Civil War. The C.L. Weller, the chairman of the state, and John B. Weller were among one of the first prisoners that was actually housed in Alcatraz. A USL house was built from 1910 to 1912 on a budget. Upon completion, I mean, this was a big place. There was no way MD was escaping because it was in the middle of nowhere. Which I think all prisons, that's the best way. The building closed in 1963. It was more modernised in 1933 and 1934, became the main cell house. And if you think of the people, obviously, that they've had in Alcatraz, that's where Al Capone was going. It was also intended for prisoners who continuously caused trouble at other prisons. It would be kind of like the last resort prison to hold the worst of the worst who had no hope of being rehabilitated. On August 11th, 1934, the first batch came. 137 prisoners arrived at Alcatraz from the United States Penitentiary in Kansas, having travelled by rail before being escorted to Alcatraz. They were handcuffed in high security coaches and guarded by some of the 60 federal FBI special agents. So really, sorry, I'm just rambling on here, by the way, just tell me to shut up. On Alcatraz's first anniversary, the Bureau of Prisons wrote, "The establishment of this institution not only provided a secure place for the detention of the more difficult type of criminal, but has had a good effect upon discipline in our other jails. Also, no serious disturbances of any kind has been reported during the year." So it just shows that people must have been scared at the thought of going to this prison. So there's my bit of research on it.
Sorry, I'm reading up 2 screens here. Whoever wants to jump in, please do.
I have a question. Does anybody know what Alcatraz stands for, where it comes from?
Oh, I know this one. I read this.
It's actually a pretty good question. I mean, funny enough, I was looking that up. In fact, what does like Alcatraz actually mean? Believe it or not,
it actually derives from Spanish. Alcatraz in 1775. The Spanish explorer, I can't pronounce his name. Sorry, was the first to sail into what is now known as San Francisco Bay. His expedition mapped the bay and named one of the 3 islands, and obviously over time the name was changed to Alcatraz.
Yeah, because originally the guy who kind of found it, I guess, called it Isla de los Alcatrazes. I'm sorry, Spanish speakers, I just totally butchered that, but I'm sorry. But it says it's like the island of gannets or the island of pelicans, some would say.
Yeah, that's exactly what I found.
Very interesting, because it was just kind of an
island.
Lauren's
coming.
Lauren.
Oh, hi.
Oh my God,
this
is amazing.
I think she's there.
I think so. It might be. It's probably the connection.
Um,
Oh, this is tense.
Yeah.
She
Lois,
might be having issues with her phone.
yeah. Sorry, what's Scott were you saying?
no, Eric's asked if you've abused me. Yeah, she has, Eric. I've had quite a few words of abuse from her.
Listen, if I didn't abuse you, then there would be something seriously wrong. I'd be dying.
People would be asking questions.
Exactly.
I don't know what the others mean. That's Eric. Yeah, I'm looking at two screens now, so that's how I keep going. That Lauren, I think he's here. I'm not quite sure. But
I'm
maybe you
not
look. Go on, though.
No. I was just saying I was hoping that she was coming. That was all.
Well,
I have another question. Does anybody know what the island was said to be before it was founded by this Spanish explorer?
It was a you know what? I just looked it up, just the island itself. And before it became a penitentiary, it actually was a fort, because it says here the earliest recorded private owner of the island is Julian Workman, to whom it was given by Mexican Governor Pio Pico in June of 1846, with the understanding that Workman would build a lighthouse on it. So yeah.
That's really interesting. But what about before that? Before?
See, it doesn't. Oh, wait. Okay, I'm sorry. No, you're right. I somehow accidentally skipped that one by mistake. excuse me about that. Okay, so here's what it was. Turned out the first European to document the islands of San Francisco Bay was a Spanish naval officer and explorer, Juan Manuel de Alea, I guess that's how you say it, during Spanish rule of California. He charted San Francisco Bay in 1775. Named today's Yerba Buena Island as La Isle de los Alcatrazes, which translates as the island of the gannets, but is commonly believed to translate as, like you just said, the island of the pelicans. So, yeah.
Here. Was it not before? I mean, it was originally envisioned as a naval defence fortification. It was actually designed for residence for military offenders in 1861, and it's housed a device collection of prisoners in its early years.
Yeah, I think that was later, because I think the lighthouse was before it became a fort, if I remember correctly. And then what about even before then, like early before then, the legends? What do they say about the island? Come on, Nick.
Probably be nothing.
Something to do with the Native Americans?
It doesn't really say too much about the Native Americans, because, again, at that time, this was when California was still a Mexican territory. So, I mean, not to say that there were Native Americans in that area, but this was Mexican territory at that time. And it also says here, too, because you were also asking a little bit about the name. They say over the years, the Spanish version Alcatraz became popular and is now widely used. In August of 1827, for instance, French Captain Augustus Bernard du Haut-Silly wrote, running past Alcatraz's Pelicans Island, covered with a countless number of these birds. A gun fired over the feathered legions caused them to fly up in a great cloud, and with a noise like a hurricane. The California brown pelican is not known to nest on the island today. The Spanish built several small buildings on the island and other minor structures, and that actually pretty much ends with the earliest part of its history, because after that goes to the forts.
Yeah. I mean, there are legends. I'm not sure if these are correct. It's probably just a lot of superstition and word of mouth and just legends, right? Just stories. But I did read a very small section about, with Mexican territory that, and also with Native Americans. So I don't know which side is true, but they would
Oh yes.
if people were not well behaved, they would instantly just put them on that island as a form of isolation for a few days, and then they would get them back. And then there's also Native Americans said that they use that just for hunting grounds, as like they would eat the birds on there and the eggs and stuff like that. And there's even a source which I think every single legend about the US, they all say this, but they said it's an ancient Native American burial ground. And I don't know, they say that about everything, right? They said that about the what's the Amityville? They said that about the Amityville. They said it about everything, right? So I don't think that's very legit. I think
it could be like most likely Mexican burial ground, more likely, because
exactly.
it was, or Spanish, in other words, because again, it was Spanish territory at that time, and I think it was what? I think California, I don't think it even became a state until it was the 1840s. I think I don't remember the year when California was founded.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean,
1850. It was
1850. Yeah.
So
I mean, strategically, it's an amazing place, isn't it? Because it's an island. It's very, very good for defense. Of course, it would be used as lighthouse forts and everything like that. So I'm not sure about the legends before that. I think it was just an island, to be honest.
What Laura's comment there about, as far as I can remember, even
yes,
hanged there. Was there ever any executions at Alcatraz?
There might have been, because California was pretty big on the death penalty. I mean, it's still, I mean, not as big as today. I mean, they still kind of have the death penalty in that state, though it's kind of in between. But when they were first founded, like a lot of states, they were pretty much big supporters of the death penalty. So I wouldn't have been surprised if there were executions that were carried out at Alcatraz, or if they had death row inmates but were transferred to another facility for their executions.
I mean, for what I read about Alcatraz, it gained notorious. This is just its reputation. It's gained notorious from its being the toughest prison in America, considered by the world's most fearsome prison of the day. I mean, former prisoners were reporting brutality and inhumane conditions, which severely tested their sanity. Ed Walker was the first prisoner to commit suicide in Alcatraz. Another guy chopped off his fingers after grabbing an axe from the fire truck, begging another inmate to do the same to his other hand. One writer actually described Alcatraz as a great garbage can of San Francisco Bay, into which every federal prison dumped its most rotten apples. In 1939, Frank Murphy, a US Attorney General, attacked the penitentiary, saying that the whole institution is conducted to psychology that builds up a sinister attitude among prisoners. The prison's reputation was not helped by the arrival of America's most dangerous felonies, including Robert Stout, who was known as the Birdman of Alcatraz in 1942. He entered the prison system at 19 and never left. He spent 17 years at Alcatraz. He killed a guard, he tangled with other inmates, and he spent 42 his 54 years in prison's solitary confinement.
I have a question. Sorry, Lois.
No, on you go.
I just have an ethical question, because Lois, you're reading like all of the stories that come from the prisoners and the brutality that went on there, and these criminals, right, were the worst of the worst, from what I understood, right? These were dangerous people that were being sent there because they had no idea what to do with them, so they sent them there. Ethically, do you agree, all of you, that the way they were treated was fine because they are the worst of the worst? Maybe they shouldn't even be alive for the crimes they committed? Or do you think they deserved a little bit of humanity to, towards this? Like, I'm just really curious about ethically your points of view, and then the paranormal side of that as well.
Who wants to go first?
Oh, you go. So,
I do. It's a bit of a hard one because also the people who were sent there were considered the lowest of the low, and the crimes they committed, and they'd been all through the American prison system, went to various prisons, but they just totally refused to adhere to the system, basically the rules. And I think Alcatraz was a last stop saloon or something. The saying is,
I said it was the last chance on.
And so the way they were treated, I'll probably shot down for this, but I think it was right because they had been given, they'd done whatever they'd done, whether it was bank robbery, murder, whatever their crime was. They were there for a reason, and they had been given chance after chance to behave and not enjoy their time inside, but to live their time, and they just totally threw it back in the system's face. This is just my opinion. And so, and they knew, that Alcatraz was there and that they could end up there, and they chose to, no, I'm not going to be a good boy. I'm just going to give you hell. And so, bang, they get sent to Alcatraz. And to me, it was a case of, you know what, you had your chance, you blew it, so this is where you're going, and good riddance to you.
Yeah, that's a
just
good
my point of view.
Definitely. What do you think, Nick? What's your side?
Nick, you're on mute, darling.
Sorry, I forgot. I accidentally put it on mute because I was trying to send the link. It's kind of hard to say, honestly, because it probably also depends on the severity of their crimes, like exactly what they had committed. Like, should they have been given some leniency, like spending the rest of their lives in prison instead of getting the death penalty? I guess it really depends. But of course, it may have also depended on, whatever crimes they committed, that it was either the families or even the people themselves who decide, should this guy be put to death? Should he just be sent there for the rest of his life as like a slow death penalty, if you will? I think it kind of depends on the severity of their crime.
Good point. Lois?
I would turn around and say, to be honest with you, I think that they were actually making an example to other prisons. Well, if this is how you're going to behave, this is where you're going to go, sort of thing. So it's kind of like that experiment, right? About obviously there was an experiment done years ago, and this is a wee bit off topic, but it's to try and get to the point that they done an experiment where they put so many people as prisoners and so many people as prison guards, and they tell them to obviously the prison guards their job, what they would do in the situation with prisoners, and it was all about control. Because the way that some of these prison guards were treating the prisoners, they actually forgot that they were only in an experiment, and they actually took it so seriously. And they were doing really horrible things. And it just shows when you've got a bit of power, what you can do. So I believe that they were making an example at Alcatraz. Do you agree with it? No. But they had to do what they had to do to make an example. Did it work for the example? Of course it did. Nobody wanted to go to Alcatraz. Would you like to go to Alcatraz where you're in the middle of nowhere? You try and escape and you have got hundreds of water around about you. There's no way you're leaving Alcatraz. So personally, I wouldn't want to go there myself. Investigating, definitely. But as a prisoner, definitely no.
You also have to think too, you're surrounded by water. It's 2 miles to the mainland. So the waters, which I heard are like 50 degrees. That's literally
it's a-
freezing. You can get frostbite. I mean, there's really a number of ways to die if you try to escape, even if you manage to successfully escape the building. You know, you jump in that water, there are just tons of possibilities of death because even inmates who try doing that, they were even questioning themselves, like question themselves, or am I going to drown? Is that going to kill me? Or am I going to get hit by a rip current? Is that going to kill me? Or am I going to get hypothermia? Is that going to kill me? And also, not necessarily this was a common thing, but the guards actually used this to scare prisoners because it was almost like the guards were kind of encouraged, saying, well, if you guys want to escape, go right ahead, but don't say I didn't warn you that we are sometimes known to have great white sharks that sometimes swim around the ocean. Now, it's never really been documented that, I mean, while smaller sharks are known to swim in that area, it was not really known at that time if great white sharks actually posed a threat to escaping prisoners. Now, that kind of did go into question about a decade ago because there was a video that was captured during a tour that was going on by a tour guide of a great white shark jumping out of the water catching prey. So that kind of really questioned, could the sharks not only be used as a scare tactic, but also may have been true if inmates tried to escape.
I've got a question for you. I'm going to stick some comments up first to catch up on them. This is Laura. Well, let's see.
Okay, so no one was executed.
Nicholas said it was different time, less understanding of mental illness, less focus on rehabilitation. Nick, Lauren,
it's the photos of her tour. She'd like for me to share them on the screen at some point.
That's fine, buddy. Just whenever. Let's just pop them up. Hi, Supernatural. I mean, obviously, everybody knows what Alcatraz looks like, you know, and as I said earlier on, the people that went there were the worst of the worst, and they've been given numerous chances now. You know, when they arrive at the dock, you know, and they can see the prison, I think it's about a mile offshore, you know, they can see this building basically, and they're on, you know, they go on the boat and they're heading towards this boat. Obviously, they're looking around, and one of the things probably going through their heads is, you know, how do I escape from here? Do you think maybe when some of them were on that boat, they were thinking, oh crap, I should have listened, you know, 3 prisons ago or something like that?
Aye, oh God, aye, definitely. If you think about it, I'd have been like really crap myself. I mean, there was a total of 36 prisoners that made 14 escape attempts. 2 men tried twice, 23 were caught, 6 were shot and killed during the escape, 2 drowned, and 5 are listed missing and presumed drowned. So there was those attempts. I mean, you'd be up against a lot, try to get out of Alcatraz. What I've often wondered about is, like, did the prison guards like stay there, or did they like obviously get a boat there and back, sort of thing?
I've got a comment for Lonnie Pearl just for up it up. Just you're saying, Lois, there were, I think it was 126 women and children lived on the island. I think something like 57 families lived on the island. And Sarah was saying this earlier on.
Well, I know in those days, as far as like how guards are able to work, you know, I don't know about the guards themselves, but I know in those days the wardens often lived in the facility itself in a separate apartment building with their families. Now, question is if they had like kids, like how they were able to, you know, send them back and forth to school, and also, you know, if they were grown up, if they had, you know, jobs or something. I'm not sure, but in those days, I'm not sure about the guards, but the warden themselves usually lived in a separate part of the facility.
I mean, I read a long time ago that it was like a community. You know, take the prison side out the picture, but you had the guards, the warden, and it was like, you know, there was a school on the island for the kids, and also the daily deliveries of food and supplies and what have you. And it was that could be wrong, I'll put this comment up for Lauren. As indeed what my hand got ice cold like someone was touching my hand. I could feel someone next to me. I think he was trying to steal my rings.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
And share them.
I will, Lauren. I will.
That's Laura. But I keep looking there because the names are coming up on that screen out here. So that's how I
Sorry.
can see who it is. That's Laura. It's,
Yeah.
many kids were brought up knowing nothing but Alcatraz. If you've got the
That's
pictures there, Nick, feel
interesting.
free to stick them up.
Yeah, I got the pictures right here. She sent quite a number of them. So I'm going to share them now if you guys don't mind. So check this
No,
out of
please
what,
do.
check this
Yeah.
out of what she sent. You guys see them or?
Oh, wait a minute, I'll
No.
pop it up.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yep, I don't know.
Okay, so obviously this is the outsider. This is my first time seeing these pictures myself. So these are all new to me. There she is in one of the cells. Oh, that must be one of the dark cells. They have like the solitary confinement cells.
Oh wow, you're looking good, Lauren.
I'm amazed right now just to see how restored the prison looks. Like it looks like it's in great shape.
Yeah.
Oh, check it out. It's Alcatraz 75th anniversary, 1934 to 2009. This is the penitentiary electric shop that was used from the entire time it operated as a prison from 1934 to 1963, as well as the military salvage shop. Oh, this right here, I believe, is the original sign right here that says United States Penitentiary.
Mm.
And then this was I recognize this cell. This is one of the inmates that escaped back in 1962 using the dummy heads.
Wow.
Okay, so obviously this is the kitchen area. Alcatraz Island Golden Gate.
I can imagine the energy is very, very heavy in there, like the whole atmosphere, and it must be so eerie, especially as you said, Nick, it's so well preserved.
I have never seen a historic prison that has been this reserved. I mean, you see that with other historic prisons like Eastern State Penitentiary or Ohio State Reformatory or West Virginia Penitentiary. You know, parts of the buildings are restored, but not entirely to this degree. I mean, it just seems like the entire prison of Alcatraz has been put back entirely, like appeared as how it did back in the early days during its operational days.
It looks pretty cracking.
Yeah, that's just incredible.
Yep.
What would be? Oh, sorry, Scott. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say that was saying, Kate, it's very heavy being an empath. Energy. Was overwhelming.
I can imagine.
That's all the pictures.
That's it. Okay, doke. 2 seconds.
Thank you, Nick, for doing that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lauren, for the pictures, for the photographs.
Thank you, Lauren. Thank you.
Well, I'm sorry.
Sorry. No,
I actually had a question I actually did have a question for Lauren, because all this talk about, the energy being overwhelming, that actually leads to a question of another area of the prison, which I think this is where a lot of this energy comes from. It's actually deep underground the prison, which deep underneath there's an old remains of a secondary prison that was called the Citadel, which was a brutal Civil War prison that inmates often called the dungeon. So my question to Lauren is, did you guys get to have the opportunity of checking out the Citadel? So
that's a really good question. I wonder, because being an island, being surrounded by water, that energy never leaves. How can it just disperse? It's just constantly there. I have often wondered if it's some kind of portal there that is just infinite of these emotions and energies.
Oh, it's close to the public.
Oh,
See,
that's a
back in the
shame.
day, because there was one of the first ever paranormal shows to actually investigate Alcatraz, long before they even allowed real investigations, was, I don't know if you guys remember that show, Scariest Places on Earth, from like the early 2000s.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
they did a segment on Alcatraz, which again at that time was the only known investigation at night, that is. And they
Yeah.
had a whole bunch of college kids that went out. I mean, first they investigated the main part of the prison, but they were allowed to go down to the Citadel and investigate. And it just the overwhelming area of the Citadel, it's just a very creepy look. It's almost cave-like in a way when you see it.
Bye.
Thanks, Jeanette, though.
So it's just it's just a real creepy area, but I'm surprised they closed it off, because before it used to be open.
I mean, the paranormal side, it's always fascinated me, as many other people, and when you think of the suffering that went on there, and, there are still inmates there, you think maybe one of the reasons that some of the inmates are there is because they enjoyed their time there. If they were brutal I mean, we've all seen prison films, documentaries, and you've always got a sort of, I don't know what you might call it, boss and blah 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 within the inmates, basically. Do you think that maybe some of the prisons are still there because they enjoyed the power that they had over the weaker inmates? Does that make
I think
sense?
I know what you're getting at. To be honest, I think it is because I don't think it's so much that. I think that people become too institutionalized. Sorry, try to get that word swung round me. With people become too institutionalized to prisons, so that's their way of life. That's all they know. And when I look at today's society, it still goes on. A lot of people are that, like, I know it for personal experience, no personal experience myself, but one of my family members, he can't survive outside prison. He doesn't know how to. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like that way. So to answer that one, I would probably say it's because they're too institutionalised. That's all they know. I mean, to I can't imagine after serving their time 30, 40 years, coming out and seeing the world differently.
Yeah. They
I know,
can't cope with freedom, can they? They don't know what to do.
I know exactly what you mean, Lois. I watched a documentary
Yeah.
a long time ago. It was a British prison, and they were talking to this guy. Guy must have been in his 50s, and he was up. He was due to be released in a couple of days' time, and he was dreading it. He said, "I don't want to leave here." He said, "My friends are here. I've got my own room, basically, TV, 3 meals, and blah blah. Everything." He says, "I do not want to leave here." He says, "And I've got a nice wee." His job was mopping the floors. So I've got my own wee job. And so they filmed his release, and he says, "I'll be back. A couple of days, I'll be back here." And he went straight out and shoplifted. He was on probation. He went straight out and shoplifted on purpose so he could get straight back in. And he came back, they sent him back, and they interviewed him, and he's like, "I'm as happy as Larry. I'm home."
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, it's a huge ethical question, isn't it? I mean, that's why they say some of the best prisons are in the Nordic countries, because they actually help inmates to deal with life and get them jobs and apprenticeships and things. They kind of integrate them back into the real world, not just living their life in prison. But
We still
yeah,
see
sorry,
that.
Nick.
Yeah, we still see that. Sorry, I was looking
so,
at
so
Lauren's comment. We still see that even today. You see a lot of people out there who have committed crimes, not necessarily because they're actually bad people. It's just that, if they have committed a crime, like if they had a real bad upbringing in their childhood, or they've been abandoned by their families, or, they did something to the point where their families are ashamed of them and don't want anything to do with them anymore. They obviously would want to go back to jail and prison simply because they need a place to stay. They need a roof over their heads, and they just don't have anywhere else to go. No one else wants to help them. So they'll not necessarily commit like a severe crime like murder or something, but they'll basically do any means necessary to get locked up, even though we always tell people out there that we really don't want people to end up in a place like that. To them, they think, well, at the very least, I'm inside a place. I got a bed. I can eat 3 meals a day, even if they're not the best. I got a roof over my head. They think it's essentially to the point where prison is their home. This is where, and it's also, in their opinion, also like that's their job, that's their occupation, because when you go into prison, you have to be told what to do by guards or anyone else. So it's essentially, that's just who they are. It's not necessarily that they're bad people. And even to this day, I'd like to still believe that our prison system still tries to rehabilitate, especially a lot of the young inmates out there, to really try to get them to understand, their behavior and hopefully go back out into society. But it's really hard to do that when you have such inmates that just don't have anyone. They don't have anybody else who can care for them or take them in, or they just don't have anywhere else to go. So a place like Alcatraz would be a perfect example why some inmates just thought, this is where I live, this is where I'll die.
It's like, we've all seen the film The Shawshank Redemption.
Yes.
I know it's
Oh,
still
I
away from it.
so wanted to watch that over the weekend. Absolutely love that film.
It's the old gentleman in it. Is it Cliff? His
Brute.
name was?
It was,
Brooke.
it was, I keep forgetting his
It was
name.
Brooke.
Brooks, that's his name.
Brute, aye.
And, that's a perfect example, even though it was a film.
Yeah.
I dare say it's true. There's been cases there, through time. And, he worked in the library, and he was, he was elderly, and he did not want to come out. And you saw what it was like when he came out. The world was an entirely different place. There was cars and all sorts, and he ended up sadly committing
suicide.
Because the prison wouldn't take him back.
No.
Sorry, Lois, on you go.
No, on you go, honey.
He did say that he had thought about buying a gun and robbing. I think he went to work in a supermarket or something.
Yeah, it was.
He went to work. Yeah.
And he thought about robbing it or whatever, so he could get back in. So something like that. It's been a long time. I've seen the film numerous times, but it's been quite a while since I last, watched it.
I could play a part in it. I know what you mean, but that's the problem when you be a young person going through your life in prison and you get to an older person and then you're let out. That's quite a lot to take in. It's quite a lot to take in with what's happening in the outside world. But then you've got to flip it and say, well, look at what they're getting in prisons. They're getting TVs, PlayStations, they're getting pool tables, which I never understand that concept, to be honest, why you would put pool tables in a prison, because pool cues and pool balls, but hey, but yeah. But I would really, really love to investigate Alcatraz, definitely. It would be one worth doing.
Well, here's
I have.
Go ahead, Kate. Go ahead.
I just want to ask one question, because Lois said about investigating Alcatraz. If each of us went into Alcatraz, what would be your first piece of equipment to use?
Myself. Don't need equipment. Myself, literally.
Okay.
Aye.
I would probably go with myself too, because again, after seeing some of the other stuff on the because again, I seem to have this, special ability of kind of looking into like places of the past itself. And in fact, that same episode I just brought up of Scariest Places on Earth, the first part of it, they just simply brought in 3 psychics, and just what they were feeling. It's like I felt I could even feel, and I don't really feel very often like when I'm watching it from TV. But I just thought, geez, just the amount of energy that they're feeling in this place. I would want to experience myself before using any of the type of equipment, because they said when they were there, it was just, to them, one of them said it was the most frightening place that they ever been to, but also one of the others said it was a lot of disturbed, very, very disturbed energy, and that this place had a lot of suffering. And most importantly, she said she could hear a lot of screaming in this place. So I would probably go by myself too.
What about you, Scott?
I would take a voice recorder or use my phone and just set it on record and just sit there for 15, 20 minutes, whatever, maybe even longer, whatever time, and then play it back and see if there was any, it picked up on anything. Because
that's a good one. Yeah.
I would imagine there'll be some comments, which I will put up, folks, I do promise. I would imagine there's a mixture there, residual and intelligent.
That's why I would choose a spirit box, because I would be interested to know what it would pick up there, if it would be a lot of radio or if it would be environmental, or I would just be interested to know, like, what would come through here on a spirit box.
I'm going to stick these comments up now. They're always changing, even for people living the reality of now. And we struggle, so I can't imagine if someone who's been incarcerated for X amount of time can even contemplate integration into this reality. That's for Laura. It's a safe place. They live by rules and regulations. I understand the outside world. The real is not I can't say that word. Laura, stop typing complex words. You know anything more than 6 letters and I'm lost.
Contemplative.
Contemplative, yeah. You're going to need to explain what that means. I don't mean that word. The 4 of my and D block cell is where I was strongest. My left became ice cold. I could feel someone holding my hand, and I think he was trying to get the rings off my hand.
Yeah.
This is Nicola Ray. Hi, Nicola doll.
Hey, Nicola.
What does that word mean? Sorry, Laura. I don't have a clue.
That word too, and I've always forgotten what that word means.
Isn't it when you're thinking about things, like they're not reflecting on it, and thinking,
expressing or involving prolonged thought? Yes. I actually want to point out one inmate, because when we were just talking about, not necessarily it's connected to Alcatraz, but an inmate that may have served the inspiration for that character Brooks. And believe it or not, Kate, it's actually an inmate from our state. Although,
no way.
Well, long, of course, before we were born, obviously. It was a inmate by the name of Richard Honeck. He was an American murderer who served one of the longest custodial sentences ever to terminate in a prisoner's release in American criminal history. He was jailed in November of 1899 for the murder of a former school friend, and he was 20 years old at the time that he was incarcerated. He actually spent the first few years of his sentence in Joliet Prison, which is just an hour, where I live.
Yeah.
And then eventually he moved down to what is now called Menard Correctional Center. At that time it was known as Southern Illinois Penitentiary, and he actually eventually got media attention. I'm just going to read this real quick. It says that Associated Press reporter Bob Poos brought attention to Honeck's case in 1963 after seeing reference into the Menard prison newspaper. In a follow-up report, Poos noted that the aged murderer, obviously he was older by then, had subsequently received a mail bag of 2,000 letters, including a proposal of marriage from a woman in Germany, offers of employment, and gifts of money in sums ranging from $5 down to 25 cents. Honeck, who was permitted under prison rules to answer one letter per week, observed, he said, it'll take a long time to deal with these. And then when he eventually was released from prison in December 20th of 1963, after serving 64 years, which by then he was in his 80s. It was upon the intervention of his niece, Clara Orth, and he eventually settled in Sutherland, Oregon. And he said at one point, because funny enough, just like Brooks in the Shawshank Redemption, he said, I guess I'd have to be pretty careful if I got parole, the 84-year-old prison concluded when interviewed by Poos. There must be an awful lot of traffic now and people compared to with what I remember. And he ended up living in Oregon for 15 years and died in December of 1976 at the age of 97. So 15
Oh
years.
my God.
Yeah.
Wow. That's it must be like time traveling, because you've been in that place for so long and then you come out and you see the world as it is and it's like, what's happened to the world?
It's like the prisons at times sometimes serve, believe it or not, some people don't ever look at it this way, they kind of almost serve like time capsules. You know, you put somebody in there for a long period of time. In this case, Richard Honeck, he was in prison at a time when the telephone, electric light, and phonograph were still brand new and were still being, used out. And also, as far as transportation, most people were either still walking or had horses and buggies. And by the time he got released, there were televisions, there were radios, there were cars, there was, people were different. Some people would say the behavior was different, the accent was different, even sometimes the way how people walked were different. It's like the entire world changed around them to something that they were completely unfamiliar with.
I think we all got a taste of that as well during the pandemic when there were lockdowns.
Yeah.
Like time was very different to how we perceived it when we didn't have a lockdown. It was very, very bizarre. Yeah.
It really, really was, especially when you're going through Glasgow Central. And I mean, Glasgow Central is one of the busiest train stations there is in Scotland. And when you're walking through, and there's absolutely no one in sight, that's extremely eerie because you're left with very few staff. And I must admit, it was, I guess it kind of gives you an indication of what it would be like if say something like that happened again, But then again, I suppose COVID's changed a lot of things.
Mm-hmm. Oh, definitely. So the escape, 1962, I think it was.
Yep.
Am I right?
June of 1962.
Got the year out. Woohoo!
Woohoo!
Thanks for that, Lois. Do you think they made it? I mean, there was meant to be originally 4 in the original plan for the escape, for what I've read, but for some reason, there was a reason why only 3 of them went, because the 4th one, something to do with his wall wouldn't set. Obviously they've been digging through the cell walls and he had problems. Hi, Nigel, buddy.
Hey, Nigel.
There was something to do with he couldn't get the wall back the way he wanted it, so the guards wouldn't click on. And when it came time to use real concrete or something like that, I probably get this all wrong. So if I have, then I do apologise. But when it came time for the actual escape, he was the only one to actually try and dig himself out the cell. By the time he did it, the other 3 had gone. Do that again, boss. Do what again?
Okay. I also have a fun fact. I have a fun fact. Did you know that Japan still has the death penalty?
Yes.
Yeah.
I had no idea about it. And do you know how they do it?
If Irene was on right now, she'd be talking about that right away. She's told us about it before.
It's so rare that it happens. I think they have very, very few people a year, but I was shocked because I had no idea
Well, look
that
at
they still had
Singapore.
that.
Singapore is the same every night at 6 o'clock. They take somebody out and they shoot them. Because my friend, well, an ex-friend, her brother was staying painting and decorating, and he somehow got a job in Singapore. And every night at 6 o'clock, you would hear like a bang. And he actually asked somebody like that was with him. He says every night, same time. He says, "Do you hear that bang?" And the guy went, "Aye." He says that's a prisoner getting shot
Oh my
every night at
gosh.
the same time. It just shows you like different. It's that I would actually look at that on my own show. Is looking at different countries and different
Mm,
penalties that they have. Because obviously you guys are different to Scotland and England.
yeah.
And then you've got Japan that have their own set of thingies. And then if you look at a place like Turkey, if you end up in Turkey or Egypt or Dubai, it's so different. But I would say the more like Egypt, Dubai, and Turkey are a lot tougher.
Yeah,
Mm,
they are. Well,
Very, very tough.
Well, in Japan too, they, as I remember from what Irene had said, they said they often would give a warning to inmates, especially before they entered their court sentencing or trial. And they said that they often were warned, saying, if you don't show any remorse for the crime that you committed, especially if it was a murder of some sort, they will definitely give you the death penalty then. So
yeah.
it was almost like it is one of the few countries almost saying that if you don't shed a tear for what you've done or come to the realization of how horrific your crime was, you're going to die. So it's almost like they're kind of giving you a choice whether you want to be sentenced to life imprisonment or get the death penalty. And
Mm,
of course, for such not a threat like that, that was often a scare tactic. And that's probably what made a lot of inmates realize what they have done to avoid the death
yeah.
penalty. Of course, obviously, there's no guarantee because even if they do show remorse, again, depending on the severity of their crime, that doesn't mean that 100% that they're going to fully dodge the death penalty.
You do see, though, that Japan is one of the safest countries in the world regarding crime.
Mm-hmm.
The crime rates
Or
are
they,
way down there.
Oh, yeah.
other sort of countries, if you look at Japan and China and Korea, they have all got the lowest crime rates, but that's because they're extremely strict. Like you can't. I think in one of I can't remember what one it is out of the three. You can't chew chewing gum. In fact, I
Yep.
think it's Singapore again. Um, you're not allowed if they catch you spitting it in the street. I mean, they've got the cleanest streets ever. They're very, very strict. And if I really feel sorry, out of the three of them, I really, really feel sorry for the likes of Korea because some of their rules are wow, just massively. It makes you realise how lucky you actually are in reality.
There's one law I can recall, and this is in Singapore, which unfortunately, this is still one of the countries that, I mean, a lot of countries, 50 plus years ago used to have a law against this, but, most have lifted it now. Unfortunately, Singapore is also one of the few countries that to this day has still been banning, like homosexuality for other people, like their likes and stuff. But from what I've heard is that the people of Singapore are trying to get that lifted so they don't have to keep going to prison for it. So they are fighting to get rid of that. As far as the other laws that they got, that's still question for debate because that, again, it's no wonder why they have such a very low crime rate because, again, like you said about these strict laws and rules they got.
Do you think, here's a question for Lois, because obviously, Nick, Kate, you are on the other side of the pond. Do you think, Lois, our justice system is too soft?
Yes, without a shadow of doubt. Without a shadow of doubt. And when they can be strict, and when you know that they can be strict, you're like, why can't you have done that before? An example would be James Bulger. I know, sorry, I'm turning this kind of into a crime show, sorry. James Bulger, his two killers, right, served young kids, done their time, got you identities, could have had a new life, and one of them is now currently in jail. And if there is a God up there, then he'll spend the rest of their life in jail. But our laws are very, very. They're just so messed up. They're too soft. Aye, there you go. Right. Say Nick robs a shop in Scotland. Right. I'll just use Nick as an example.
You always use me as an example for everything.
That's it. I love it. So he robbed a shop in Scotland, and they jail him for say 6 years. Right. He would only need to do half the sentence for good behaviour. And it depends on how long he's been kept on remand. They also take that off. So he would pretty much walk out a year and a half.
No, that's right. The reason I'm asking is, you were all saying about the different laws in different countries, Korea, Singapore, etc., and they are really, really strict. And to me, as a deterrent, even America, I watch a lot of court sentencing. See, my English is crap. My Scottish is good. My English is pants. Yeah, I watch it's on like YouTube and stuff like that, and I'll watch it. And you see them in court, and the judges giving them their sentence. And some of the things that they've done, you know, armed robbery, the judges say, right, 35 years. And they'll do the 35 years. You know, they don't say 35 years and you're out in 10. You're out in 35 years if you're deemed safe for to be released. And it makes you, I'm not turning this into a debate or anything, it's about Alcatraz, obviously. But we do tend to go off topic sometimes, as anybody watches
Sorry.
It's not you, Lois. I'm not talking to you, though. It's totally fine. It's just one of these things that always sticks in my mind when I watch these videos of court, and they'll say, I mean, there was one guy get 400 odd years, and somebody says to me, how can he do 400 odd years? I said, well, he can't, obviously, but they need to be sentenced for each crime that they've done. That's the law,
as they always would call them.
Yeah. So he might have committed 10 different offences, and he gets, 40 years for each offence. It's never going to do all these years, but I just think in the UK it's too soft.
I think sometimes there is special cases. Like there is special cases. To be fair, right? It's not all bad, right? I'll flip it again, right? Wayne Coustins, that nurse Lucy Thingy that's just been given that's gave a whole term order. Rose West got a whole term order. There's if you go back, there is a few that's got lifetime orders, but that's just not enough because you're only doing it for certain cases. There's other cases out there that need the whole term order.
Sorry, Rose. Sorry, though.
No, you're fine.
I need to, because I actually mentioned this before we came on live about the jumper. So, Lauren, she says the same thing as me. When's he getting his shirt back? He's got the next ready. And he's got a topless Freddy running about somewhere. Where's my jumper?
I think it really suits Nick. It goes with your hair.
I'm just really gonna say right now, I mean, for the last several days, and I promise you guys are gonna be seeing this on a regular basis, but I got so many Halloween horror film and paranormal shirts that I got started in late August. So this is just one of a. I mean, I'm trying to get through as many as I could. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, not of this shirt, but I got about 100 of these different Halloween shirts, so I got to wear them all. So I started back in late August, and it's going to be going to like mid-November.
Have you got a pumpkin one?
Oh, of course I do. No collection like that is without a pumpkin one, of course. And you know what? Lauren's comment. What's next? Jason's shirt. You know what, Lauren? That may be one of those days that I do have one, but I have more than just a shirt. Believe it or not, I actually have. I know it's going to sound crazy. An actual Friday the 13th jersey.
Oh
That
wow!
actually sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. I got it from again, I know you got, well, Kate, you probably know this place now. Scott, Lois, I don't know if you guys, they have them at Spirit Halloween, which just recently
Yeah, one just opened up in my town, and I'm so
Yeah.
excited to go. I was going to take my 2-year-old daughter, but then I looked at the Google images. I was like, it's going to give her nightmares. Totally not going to take her there.
It's, you know, I actually worked there for 3 years, and I got to
No
be honest, it's a
way.
fun job. I would probably say, trying to go off topic, but I'll just say this: it's really one of the few jobs where sometimes you're just getting paid just to be there. It's a real
Yeah.
easy job. It's fun. You get to hang out. You
Yeah.
don't have very many tasks to do unless you really like, except for once it gets closer to the holiday, of course. But
Yeah. But
it's
for like
and
for the
the pay is good too.
Oh, that's good. Like for those that don't know, Spirit Halloween is just a massive store, isn't it? Where they sell Halloween decorations and costumes. That's like their
Yeah.
primary thing, isn't it? The costumes, and they have like mannequins and stuff, like
Not
really
mannequins, more animatronics. And
animatronics.
it's
That's
owned
the
by the
one.
Spencer's
Yeah.
company. Now, I would love to see it eventually expanded because, you know, now seeing other countries kind of starting to get into Halloween. Of course, obviously, Lois in Scotland, since you guys have been celebrating it over in Scotland, it would be awesome to see something like that for Scotland.
Yeah.
And it would just be great to see such a place like that eventually become an international company.
Oh
I'd
God,
be
I
happy.
definitely. I would love it. I would be in there forever.
And in case anybody, like, you know, is interested, I should just say this quick, because in case anyone does have interest in wanting to work there, if you work there as an employee, you get a 20% discount already, because, you know, like how right after when Halloween's over, it's open for another day or two and everything's 50% off. You get a 20% off, but that 50% comes with that for you. So for employees, you get 70% off entirely. And it is also a job too for high school students. It's not just for adults only. I mean, there still is an age limit at that place where you got to be at least 16 or over to work there.
Well, Nick,
Because
I'll tell you what, right? You tell my in-laws that I'm on my way over, right, with my bag. I'll move in, right? And then I'll tell you what, me and you, I'll get you that 70% discount. Don't you worry. I'll start working there.
it's not open all year round, is it? It's only open
No,
for a few months, right?
So here's the funny thing about this is that everybody always thinks it's just it's just when it gets to the fall season. Believe it or not, they actually start their business in June, but not as a store, just as a kind of corporate company, if you will, because it's around that time when they start gathering, like, you know, who's going to be a manager, who's going to work at this facility or that facility. And then during the month of July, that's when they start scouting out locations, like, you know, where they're going to open, which, you know, are usually former stores. And then in mid August, usually in August, that's when they start putting them together and eventually open up. And they're normally open from August all the way till each store has a different closing date. Some are November 1st, some are November 2nd, some are also November 3rd. But whichever of those days after that, that's when they're closed completely. But if you're an employee, you're still working there for a few more days because, you know, you helped build the place. Now you got to take it all down. So as employees, you're there at least till mid-November. Usually we're done right before Thanksgiving. And you're still getting paid for it too. So it's not like volunteering at that point.
Ah, that's actually good.
Yeah.
We don't have anything with that here.
No, it's got.
Yeah, I'm going to get back on track.
I told you,
Sorry.
Scott. Get off.
Just blame Lois.
What were you saying, Lois? The whole life order thing?
The life whole order, aye. So they're only getting it out at special cases. I'm not saying special cases, but cases where it's needed. But it shouldn't just be that. They should be doing that, really, because there's cases out there where, like, for example, I don't know. Well, you'll obviously know the case about Baby P. That
Hit the blame.
Sorry, guys, just to butt in. I'm so sorry. I'm going to have to go now. So I just want to say thank you, everybody. Thank you, guys. Really sorry. I have to shoot off, but it's been amazing.
No bother, dog. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
And
Kate,
we'll
I
talk
just
to
have
you
a
soon.
question. Did you still
Talk
want
to
to
you
come on did you still want to come on to Fear Fans tomorrow night? Because I offered you
Yeah.
that. Okay, great. Awesome.
Awesome. Thank you. I'll message
Yeah.
you. Thank you.
Talk to you
Bye.
soon, dog.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Lois.
Bye.
Bye. So yeah, like Baby P, right? Obviously, Nick will know who Baby P is, right? So for all the people who don't know who Baby P is, Baby P was the most horrendous case of child abuse that you'll ever find, and the people that done it never got life. So, and one of them's actually free today, and I don't think that's right. I think in that case that should have been a whole term order. Definitely, without a doubt. But yeah, Scotland's far too laid back when it comes to the laws.
Maybe one day we'll drag ourselves, but because I think they certainly need to look at it. But get back to the escape.
Would you guys excuse me just for 1 sec? I'm gonna get some water quickly. I'll be right back.
No bother,
Nick.
Lord Nick.
Yeah.
Nick, right?
Yeah.
Tell that guy that you're Team Lois.
We'll talk about it later.
Oh, Nicky, you're going to get a slap.
No. Shh. It's all part of the big plan.
Oh, nice.
I'll be right back.
Good save, man. Good save.
That's quite weird. You just see him stand with the shots and that one in it. His thing disappears. I'll shut up. You know what I mean?
I just love. He's brilliant. But yeah, I wait till he comes back to start the whole escape. See what's playing in my head right now is a Great Escape tune. You just could imagine.
Oh, he might enjoy that.
Enjoy that. He will, Laura. Tells me all the time.
I agree with Steve. That was a brilliant film. I love that tune. That's one of my favourite tunes.
The Great Escape.
There's another. I think there's another. That's another true story. Laura, what was he wanting me to do again? While we're waiting on Nick, you put up this comment. Do that again, boss. But you didn't tell me what it was. Because I don't think I did anything.
Oh, here comes Nick. Yay!
What did I miss?
Welcome back,
I was just declaring my love for you and you missed it. I didn't even realise you were away.
She was just saying she loves you in that jumper and these shorts. You're a handsome guy, and she's on the first flight over.
If you please excuse me, I've got to run right now. I've got my bags packed. I must not miss that flight to the North Carolina.
Yeah.
She lies, Nick. I can't remember, boss. She lies, Nick.
Laura, you'll be getting a scalp and all.
Right, can we keep this show clean, please, folks? See the topic slapping each other. What I mean?
I didn't specifically say where. I just said slap.
You're right. Anyway, back to the escape.
Yeah, back to the escape.
Let's see. Aye, so there was 4 of them originally, but only 3 made the escape because the other one had issues. Laura, you and I are going to a Bursdall, because you're just encouraging, you're putting fuel on the fire, you're adding a log to the fire.
Don't you worry, I'll PM you, big girl.
I don't have anything to say to that, I'm afraid, Nick. I don't know if you want to comment on that one, Nick.
No comment.
No comment.
Right, third time lucky. The escape.
Right, third time lucky. 4 of them planned it, 3 of them did it, the other one got left behind through circumstances. Now, I know it's kind of 50-50. A lot of people say they never made it because of the water, but then there is evidence to suggest, I think it's in the form of a letter, that the 3 did make it. That was in 1962. The 3, if they did make it, were never found. The investigation was closed by the FBI in 1979. So, is it still a mystery? Did they or did they not make it across that 1 mile stretch? What do you think?
It's really, that's another good question. I've often wondered too, like, could have been possible if they could have made it to freedom, but at the same time though, it still would have been impossible for them to really make it to the mainland, because again, as I said before, the waters are absolutely freezing, like, again, about 50 degrees or lower. Of course, adding to that, they went after dark at nighttime, so the waters obviously would have been far cooler after dark. And also, again, the only idea I could think of is if they did manage to survive was not necessarily that they could have made it to shore, but they could have made it to a nearby island that was nearby called Angel Island, which was a little bit more closer to the prison than San Francisco was. So, I mean, this is just a speculation that maybe at some point they could have made it to Angel Island instead, and a boat could have passed by, and they probably mistaken them as like stranded islanders and took them back to the mainland. Because you have to think, even back in 1963, you didn't really think too much. Most people didn't really put many signs of this up, but saying that, warning, people on this island could be escaped prisoners. But yes, like I said, whoever said that, yeah, like I said earlier too, there was also the dangers of sharks as well.
Nicole Ray.
Oh, Nicole said that. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, sharks could have, like I said, sharks could have been another dangerous risk in the bay, even though they're not common in that part of the Bay Area. Of course, you have to remember, if you're doing this at night, that's usually sharks' favorite hunting hours. So the chances of sharks attacking them could have been relatively high. Again, that's why the guards, use that to scare the inmates who had the ideas of escaping.
I mean, we are saying, Nick, we're not going to be Lois. Don't worry, though. We'll get to you in a second. I'll let you talk to Laura. I mean, you say that the signage, there wouldn't have been a lot of signs. Maybe the other reason for that is because Alcatraz was considered escape-proof. I mean, the authorities were adamant nobody will ever escape from here. So, would have been a case of, we don't need put up signs because they're never going to get out. They're never going to make it to the mainland again. So, but one of the things that fascinated me was that they says that they made a life raft, basically. That's private, boss. They're supposed to have made a life raft out of 52 raincoats. No, a life raft, a dinghy, a boat, whatever you want.
It was like a homemade dinghy they were making.
So you think to yourself, it's a prison they're getting watched all the time. So how could they possibly make some kind of dinghy without being noticed, without somebody seeing something?
Yeah, because even in 1962, even though they didn't have like security cameras really back in those days, somebody would have seen it, whether it was a guard or even just another inmate.
But what's your thoughts on it, Lois?
My thoughts, right, I'm going to use an example, and I'm going to use Shawshank as an example. Look at when Andy the Frame was escaping, and he was chipping bits off the wall, and he was walking outside, and stones were coming down out his trousers. I think they've been very, very,
That's right.
very, very careful what they're doing. I believe though, if I had to like give my theory on it, I think they must have got someone on the outside, must have hired a boat or something, and told them to meet. But then again, the other theory you've got to look at is maybe they did drown in the water, and maybe they were ate by sharks, because there's never ever been any trace of them. But then again, look at how many people in the world is missing in general and have never been found. So it's all different kinds of theories. You could go on all night speaking about the different theories of what happened to the three men.
I mean, there was even, and again, this was exactly like what I just said not long ago about, like, they said the idea of sharks. There were actually, I actually do recall there was an account where guards sometimes would not necessarily encourage inmates, but they would actually say to them, saying, well, if you guys want to escape this island, go ahead. We won't stop you, but don't blame us to know the fact that there's often sharks that swim by. You know, essentially they were giving them that warning, saying, if you escape, normally we would do something, but since we're on an island, if you want to escape, go right ahead. But you get attacked by sharks trying to escape, we're not going to be able to help you. You're on your own at that point. So, because you know how long it would take, you know, for any type of authorities to show up in the midst of a shark attack. So again, it was another good way to kind of scare inmates, thinking, you sure you really want to escape, or would you rather be here, or would you rather become fish food for hungry sharks in the San Francisco Bay Area? So I'm sure those days it would have been quite effective, and that would have deterred a lot of inmates from trying to escape, knowing the dangers of the waters themselves, and not just, again, the sharks, the rip currents, the freezing temperatures, the storms that sometimes go through. You know, there's waves. I mean, you're in the middle of an island, so the white waves have got to be crazy when storms arrive. So it was probably one of their best ways to really not scare inmates into not to, only to scare them for better behavior, but just trying to keep them on the island so they didn't harm themselves, in other words.
Do you think the a couple of comments for Lauren that I put really say? Do you think the focus, you know, obviously prisons these days, the main focus is to stop prisoners escaping, you know, to wipe out any chance of escape. But do you think with Alcatraz, maybe because they thought it was escape proof, there was more focus on the guards preventing violence, rather than, and the focus was taken away from keeping them in?
Could have been.
Rather,
It could have been.
you know, keeping them apart, and that's why maybe it was so, I say, easy, I don't know, for these guys to, you know, build what they built, you know, the heads and, you know, all the rest of digging and stuff, because the focus wasn't really on escape, it was on stopping them from killing each other, basically.
It could have been, actually. That's a good theory on, you know, their chances of escaping, because it's like, if you tell them, it's just like any prison would probably say that, you know, if you try to escape, you're going to get shot, you're going to get killed for this. Again, it's another tactic, saying, would you rather, you know, live life in one piece, during your sentence, or do you want to have a bullet put to you and that will either kill you or, you know, disfigure part of your body? Because there are some prisons out there that have some pretty powerful rifles out there that can really damage somebody.
Oh God, aye. But gentlemen, before you read the comments, I am going to slide off for the night. But thank you very much for having me. And Nick, I'll see you on Thursday.
Yep, I'll be there.
But yeah, I'm just going to read this comments and we're going to wind up. But thanks for coming on, Lois Haddow.
Oh, it's always a pleasure for you. Always
I
a
know it
pleasure,
is.
Nicola.
I know it is an honour for you to be on a PIH show.
Oh, I mean, I do my makeup, my hair, you know, I make sure everything's in the right place. Love yous. Like,
Talk to you
bye.
soon, no. Bye, bye.
Bye, bye.
I just realised we've been on near an hour and a half.
Yeah, it's been a good
Lois-
show, though, I got to be honest.
Obviously, it's been me. Obviously, don't want to. I know Lois is still probably watching. Don't listen to what Lois says. I know she's watching, or she'll watch it back. So forget Lois. She's away. She's away at bed or whatever. Obviously, the 5 years I lived in Bermuda, I had the same dream every night of a lady that was killed. I think she was from the 1800s. I didn't know her. The dream stopped when I moved back to the USA. That's interesting. I think maybe it was a kind of message, a kind of calling sort of thing to come back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And once Warren was back, then the dream was actually. Seriously, it's getting late here. That's where my speech is going. The sharks need to eat as well. Very true, though. Very true. I mean, these people be missed, or will you be? Fish food. I take it that is for Lois.
Yeah, it was.
But I mean, it is an interesting question. Did they make it? You know, and then obviously the prison was shut down in '63, the year it following the escape.
Yeah, I think they came that real. I mean, I think after that whole escape, that's when I think pretty much the California prison system realized that this prison was not as secure as they were originally hoping so. And it's not like other prisons that, while Alcatraz, of course, now today is certainly a historic landmark. You know, you look at a lot of these old prisons, they usually close after 100 years or so. But unfortunately, in this case with Alcatraz, you know, as a prison, and keep in mind, it really only operated for like 30 years before they eventually closed it. And normally, a lot of those prisons that closed early would be demolished. But for whatever reason, I guess they decided to keep this as a historic landmark, even though back in 1963 it wasn't even 50 years old yet. But you also have to remember too that in spite that it wasn't this most secure prison as most people would believe it would have been back then, it was really one of the last prisons at that time to really be an actual prison on an island. I mean, we still got a few of those like around the world, but nowhere really. I mean, the closest thing we have here in the U.S., which is kind of an island, not fully, we have Rikers Island Penitentiary in New York, although they're also talking about wanting to close that prison down in the next 10 years. Oh, jeez. Yeah.
I hope that goes all right for you.
Yeah. Lord, So, yeah, it's unfortunate they had to close it down, but, you know, how far would they have been able to go with this prison if they were able to keep it in operation for several more years? Because there could have been a likelihood there could have been more escapes.
That's what I was going to say. You know, obviously it was known as an escape-proof prison. But after these guys managed to do it, did, you know, the government, the authorities, whoever, the prison board, whoever it is that controls it, think, well, it's kind of lost its appeal. It's not as good as we thought. So we're going to stop throwing money at it and throw the money elsewhere. Because
and a lot of those inmates ended up in another historic prison, which to this day is still in operation in California, and that's San Quentin prison.
Where the famous gas, do you still have the gas chamber there, actually?
they have the gas chamber, but they haven't executed anybody for like 20 years or so. But what's interesting is that San Quentin is even older than Alcatraz is. It's the oldest running facility in California. In fact, it's the very first state prison in the state of California. And this prison houses almost like everybody, gang members, murderers, rapists, serial killers. They once housed Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker of LA, and Richard Allen Davis, who murdered Polly Klaus. Who else was there? Charles Manson at one point was there. You had Richard Chase, the vampire of Sacramento. He was also there as well. It's had some of the most notorious gang leaders. I mean, this is kind of like where all the big names are. So I think San Quentin has kind of been, despite that it's way older than Alcatraz, I think that prison is pretty much, for the most part, has taken over that notorious prison spot, if you will, because it's been used for a variety of documentaries and even movies there. And it's just, I think that's kind of taken over what Alcatraz was trying to be. I think Alcatraz was trying to be the secondary San Quentin, but yeah, to this day, they still have the gas chamber, but they haven't executed anyone. So from what I remember hearing is that there are currently nearly 700 men on death row at San Quentin. It might be more than that, because I heard that from a documentary that was filmed over a decade ago.
I know, I mean, the two things that strike, when I hear the name San Quentin, the two things that strike mind is the gas chamber and Johnny Cash. You know, talking a world apart, but the two things that pop in my head. But I know with the death penalty in America, there is a lot of controversy about the injection, some kind of, because of one of the drugs, and a company was refusing to supply it, and etc. etc. Seen a couple of documentaries on it, you know, and eating dinner and watching you guys dinner and a movie. Well, as long as you enjoy yourself, though, you know, but we're just going to wind up there, because with Nick, it's about, what time's it? About 4:30 or something with you?
Yeah, it's 4:30. It's 4:30 p.m. over here. Although for Lauren, she's in Virginia, so she's an hour ahead.
I hate that. I love America. You know what I mean? I think it's a fantastic country. People as well. I need to say that because you're on. There's people watching from America. People are lovely. No, Jay Easer, you know. And also we've got our Jennifer in Oregon. It's just the size of your country.
I know. Although I still say I think Canada is probably bigger than ours, though. So because they got a much larger land range, if you will, by adopted son.
I mean, to go from our west coast to our east coast, you do it maybe an hour and a half.
Yeah,
that's it. An hour and a half. With America, it's like 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah,
driving.
It is. In a way, yes. It also depends, like where you start from point A to point B. Oh, she's actually leaving. You know, I'm just gonna say I thought she was saying when she said BU, I thought she meant like actually buy adopted. So no, I realize what she's saying now. No, she's actually going, but it's I excuse me. I always love it when she tunes in. She's just amazing.
Well, it's a pity she couldn't. I mean, the link did what? I don't know what happened.
Yeah, she was trying to get the link so she could have her name show up in the comments, and I thought she actually meant like the actual StreamYard link, because I thought she was gonna like tell her story of when she was there at Alcatraz, but no, I turned out sent her the wrong link.
That's what I think. Nick and I were mailing each other, because I wasn't sure if you wanted to come on or you like you wanted. So Nick and I were sort of mailing each other, and then I thought you were going to, you popped up, but then you never popped up.
Yeah.
And, so I was confused. But that's a funny lie. But I think we'll wind up here, buddy. That's 90 minutes we've been on, and it's kind of late over here, but it's still coming on to sort of night time with you. You know, you're still wide awake. I love picking. I love picking on Nick. So where can people find you? And don't say Chicago.
I honestly have said that so many times that I don't even really need to say it anymore. So
I like just to ask, you know, I mean, Nick Whaley, he's a legend. You know, he's a legend. I hope Lois is watching it. I will watch it. He's a legend, you know, that's why he wants to come on. our show so many times. You know, the amount of times this guy mails me and says, "Please, God, let me send me some dates." It's embarrassing. Sorry, Nick, carry on.
So you could so you could find me, of course, on I have a few accounts, but the majority of the time you can either find me, they could find me in Alcatraz. Just reading what Lauren just said. Yeah, you could find me at the closest prison cell in Alcatraz. Just find me sitting there and we could chat then. But no, you can find me either on Facebook or YouTube. And of course, obviously, I'm also on a whole bunch of networks. So obviously, and Lauren knows this already because I sent her all the links a long time ago. I'm on 9 different networks. The main one I'm usually on is Things Network, but I'm also on Temple of Phoenix Rising Entertainment, Skeleton Key Network, Pack Channel, RU Media Network, Para Unity Network, Simply Spooky Network, and the It's Haunted Network. So I'm kind of all over the place. Yeah, see, Lauren just said I'll be in D Block.
I'm kind of sorry I asked now where to find you. That was like a list there. And you'll find them on PIH time to time. So 2 seconds, but
It's a big spider.
I've just been told there's a big spider in the room.
Oh, jeez.
She's spider season here, seemingly, and they're all, every spider's a monster. Do you not get that, Nick? Wherever there's a spider and it's huge, it's a killer, and you go to find it, and it's like the top of a pin.
Yeah, it's like, yeah. Well, I would probably still say, I mean, it is getting close to Halloween season, so I wouldn't be surprised if there's spiders nearby. We've actually been having well, mostly it's during the summer, but we've had a number of bats flying around our backyard swimming pool. They're there to get a lot of the insects, but they also drink out of the pool a lot of times. So apparently it's their watering hole.
Right. No, we don't get a lot of bats. So one of the locations we go to, Loudon Cup, there's a few bats, fly about, but it's no very many. One of the castles as well. You get a couple of bats. But we'll wind up there, young. I'll hold on to you just for a couple of seconds after we come off, if that's all right.
That's fine.
So thanks very much to Kate and Lois for coming on, even though they're gone. Thanks very much, and to Mr. Mulae over there. I hope you enjoyed tonight's little chat. I know we kind of went off topic a couple of times, but that's what always happens on these shows. I think we very rarely stick strictly to one topic.
That happens with a lot of these paranormal podcasts. There are times that sometimes we do get off topic, but at the same time, we're still having a good time. And eventually, we get back to the main topic. So it's just sometimes. So
kind of go like that, don't you? Kind of run and then you get back.
Yeah, you slowly but surely get back.
we always find our way back, folks. So we'll wind up here. So thanks to everybody on the panel again tonight, and thanks everybody for watching. We're back on tomorrow night with Cara Phillips, and then we're on Thursday with Charlie and Rigger. And Thursday we're just going to be talking a load of nonsense. We don't have a topic or nothing. Tomorrow night should be interesting. So take care of the now, and we shall talk to you all very soon. So cheers. Cheers, Doc. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Lauren, as always.
We need to get Lauren on once as well.
I've had the idea of wanting to have her on at some point, like on some of our shows, because since she's such a huge supporter for a lot of our shows, I thought at some point that maybe in the very near future we can give her a chance of coming on, whether it's this show or a different one. It'd be awesome to have her on at some point.
She's welcome on here. You're welcome on here anytime, Rob. Anytime. Just give the man there a wee nudge and we'll get it set up for you. So we'll say good night, folks, or good afternoon, whatever the case may be. And we shall talk to you all very soon. So thanks for, I was going to say thanks for phoning. I don't know why I was going to say that. I was going to go, thanks for watching. I will talk to you soon. Take care. Bye. Bye.